You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYPC.
WCYTV
Here on the Daily Signal.
Good evening and welcome to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first out of 93 WIBC. Now, a couple of housekeeping things right up front before we dive into the news. Our home station, WIBC in Indianapolis. I know some of you are listening via our radio or watching via our TV syndication partners. If for whatever reason, my screen suddenly becomes very, very dark. No, we're not playing hide and seek. If the power goes out, it's because instead of broadcasting out of Washington, D.C. and hating my life, we broadcast out of Indiana, where I can open carry and be happy about it. And so if that power outage, something like that happens, alas, that's what happened. We're fine. But hopefully, those of you who are in the Midwest enjoying the lovely spinning weather we're having, you're safe, you're sound, and you're keeping your eye out. There will not be EAS alerts that play on the live stream. That's on a local radio or TV station. I'm not risking the wrath of the FCC by playing my collection of EAS alert sounds for you and accidentally calling it a civil danger alert instead of a weather alert and causing everybody just a whole lot of grief. Well, speaking of a whole lot of impending grief, Iran has elected to receive. And so it's time for a little bit of sports Iranian coverage. This afternoon at 4:17 p.m. Eastern Time, Iran's Ayatollah Khamenei has officially rejected Trump's last U.S. proposal for peace. He called it which is roughly translated excessive and outrageous. He then fondled a nearby goat. So as far as the Ayatollah and the mullahs are concerned, let's talk a little bit about what this means. The demand from the United States after the nuclear program was destroyed. There's a lot of weird pearl clutching and grumping on the social media sphere about this. The nuclear missile and nuclear enrichment program had in fact been destroyed by the Trump administration in Operation Midnight Hammer. But as the Ayatollah said soon afterward, you cannot bomb the books that show us how to continue enriching uranium. You can't bomb the knowledge that exists. And so Trump said, all right, fine, we'll kill the people with the memory of the bomb making. And that appears to be what we are looking at now. The Ford is now in the Mediterranean. The Abraham Lincoln is ever closer. Russia sent one rowboat and a guy half drunk on vodka to the Strait of Hormuz. China probably sent some takeout via boat. We're not entirely sure yet. As of right now, however, there are a couple of international details. First of all, the Iranians have deployed the most incredible, impactful Republicans in Congress measure to fight the United States. They have written an angry letter. Yeah, that's right. You impressed? The angry letter that the Iranians have brought forward here this afternoon outlines that if the United States dares lift a finger against the Islamic regime, then all of the U.S. bases in the Middle East will be fair game, and they will also sink the entire U.S. Navy. That ain't happening. Nice posturing, nice letterhead, exciting stuff. Good for you for writing a letter to the UN Secretary General's office, who has almost stopped one entire tragedy in its entire existence. So great. Maybe this will be the first thing the UN actually fights effectively. Not going to happen. One of the things the Iranians demand is that everyone gives them everything, and in turn, they will give up nothing. The IRGC, which they are threatening will, ride across the deserts like the days of the Gulf War, I guess, when Kuwait was briefly occupied by Saddam Hussein, that supposedly the IRGC is going to sweep forward and this great army is going to conquer the Middle East. No, the IRGC can't move from their little outposts and shacks, because if they do, and they go leave off to fight their crusades, well, things happen at home. And the Iranian people, the people of Persia and the Kurdish regions, are not particularly pleased with the way the country is being run. Now, to some of the other international updates that are rather important to this particular series of news. So the biggest ally of the Iranians, as usual, is the Muslim Caliphate of England. Keir Starmer has announced that the Americans are no longer allowed to use any of the Royal Air Force bases or refueling stations. Now, the United Kingdom, both from Parliament and Keir Starmer's administration, has issued a unilateral ban from, this is according to the New York Post, from the United States using any kind of airstrip owned by the Brits for any kind of strike that they believe could violate international law, which in the British interpretation means anything that is remotely mean to Muslims. And they don't want Britain implicated because, that's the real concern. Of course, Trump has responded already by slamming Keir Starmer. There's one key base that the United Kingdom is extra guarded over. They say under no certain circumstances shall you, pip pip cheerio, use Diego Garcia. It's a very small, stringy island that you think that based on this is like in the Middle East. It's right up next to Iran. The answer is a resounding no, it's not. As you can see for those on the live stream, it is in the middle of the Indian Ocean. It is essentially south of the equator. That's for AOC, in case, she's out here, trying to do some geography. It is only a few latitudes above Madagascar. It's roughly the same latitude as Tanzania. So it's south and east of Sri Lanka. It is very much not something that is super duper necessary. So the United States said, all right, fine. We can't use your random ocean island, one of the last vestiges of the vaunted British Empire that they threw down the drain. Bulgaria has actually stepped up to the table. The United States forces have now turned Sofia International Airport in Bulgaria into a major staging ground for all aerial refueling tankers to support future strikes on the Iranian regime. So seen here in this photo, half a dozen KC-135s parked on the ramp yesterday evening. And again, for you geography experts, Sofia International Airport is a lot closer to Iran in theater, especially over Turkey, Syria, Israel, Jordan, Greece, Kuwait, Iraq, Iran, in this particular instance where a lot of the spicy noises are to be heard over the horizon. Right now, the Trump administration, there's a lot of speculation from Reuters to the Associated Press to Axios to, you, me, and Dupree over whether or not Trump's going to strike Friday or this weekend or the 1st of October. And the answer is, I don't know, you don't know. But at this point, it appears Trump is deciding how many targets in Iran he wants the United States to hit. None of this means boots on the ground. None of this means sending in the delegation to do a Nikki Haley empire in Iraq. Nothing like that at all. Literally just, hey, Khamenei, how would you like to see the sky up close and personal? How would you like to go on a date with a Tomahawk missile? A JDAM custom built for you and, God willing, coated in pig fat. So the Iranian regime's days are numbered. Again, I am excited that they think that the U.S. Navy is going to join the Iranian Navy at the bottom of the ocean. Probably not going to happen. One of their most recent hypersonic missile tests, according to Al Jazeera, ended in the deaths of 3 Iranian technicians. And if Al Jazeera is reporting 3 deaths, it was probably like 12. And I don't know if you guys know this about missile tests. You're not really supposed to hit your own people. Now, North Korea has been struggling with this for years, but Kim Jong-un's usually more interested in playing Rocket League than actually firing rockets these days. Also, an F-4 Phantom fighter jet, one of the last 6 of Iran's planes, also went down near Hamadan today. One pilot was killed, so his ejector seat, which appears to have been made out of balsa wood and unicorn whispers, didn't work. His parachute was actually an Acme anvil, which might also explain why the F-4 didn't make it very far off the ground. Now, I'm sure that Leave It to Beaver's model planes that Iran is using for its particular Air Force are ready to tango. They are still attempting some limited Airbus flights between Iran and Moscow. That's going to close up real soon. So, alas, I do want you guys to know that so far, a lot of speculation and people telling you they know exactly how foreign policy events are going to play out. Before we get into it, I just want to say, as a Midwesterner and a fan of college sports, scoreboard. I'm going to let the man cook. We'll see. Radio crew, we're going to send you off to commercial. And hopefully y'all stay dry. On the live stream, we don't have those kind of commercials. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal. All right. Now, over on to the live stream side of things. We've got a couple of breaking stories domestically. Illegal immigrant crime in the United States is continuing, as are the weird army of Karens that are so desperate to defend those who are committing really, really, really heinous acts. So in South Carolina, an illegal alien shot at a deputy while evading arrest. Here's the local news report on that developing situation.
The U.S. Department of Homeland Security is sharing new details about the man who was shot and killed in a deputy-involved shooting on Johns Island. According to the Charleston County Sheriff's Office, that shooting happened last Wednesday at the intersection of Edenboro Road and Caroline Lane. DHS says the man shot, Floriberto Perez Nieto, was in the U.S. illegally. Officials say he was previously convicted of illegal re-entry. Now, the shooting followed an overnight chase that went from a vehicle chase to a foot chase on Johns Island. Officials say Perez Nieto shot a Charleston County deputy in the chest. During that incident, that deputy was wearing body armor and was not injured.
Thank God, first of all. Let's make that perfectly clear. Number two, I'm sure that the, illegal alien was actually not Floriberto Perez Nieto, as Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez would pronounce. I'm sure that actually he was a pregnant woman, probably paraplegic, also had a bunch of diseases, and coming to this country for a better life. I'm sure she was a doctor and an engineer and a lawyer, and not a violent illegal an illegal alien here in the United States doing illegal things. So that said, I do want to bring an update on the situation outside of Indianapolis and Avon. So as we reported yesterday, there was a situation in which a semi decided that red lights aren't really for him from his country and flew through the red light, smashed into a vehicle, smashed that vehicle into another vehicle, killing an American citizen and father. We now have the CDL, the commercial driver's license for the individual. We'll throw that here up on screen. This is Singh Sukhdeep. He is an illegal immigrant. According to the Department of Homeland Security, he was released into the United States in 2018. That would be during Trump's first administration. And Indiana granted him a temporary, non-domiciled commercial driver's license, which means he's a foreigner. He cannot speak English. He was allowed because in Indiana, along with almost all other states, there's a bevy of languages that you can complete the driver's test in for commercial driver's licenses or standard operator driver's licenses, which kind of sounds weird to me because I don't know if you guys know this, but unless you're up there getting, some Tim Hortons or you're right up next to the border with Mexico, a lot of road signs are in this cool language called English. I'm just a little breaking news here for you on that side of things. Now, this individual, you'll notice I said temporary. I lifted up the old air quotes. I don't know why temporary licenses like this would expire in November of 2029. What would a standard CDL expire as? That's insane and disgusting. Now, again, as a Hoosier, I believe at this point that either my state needs to get it together or I don't know what else to say. At some point, my transportation-centric state, where the governor's office is seeking approval from the Department of Transportation to put toll roads on I-70, at least we could start taking the deaths of Hoosier citizens at the hands of immigrant CDL holders seriously. This means investigating and prosecuting the trucking companies, including Indian trucking companies set up out of New Palestine, Indiana, in 2020. Foreign-held commercial driver's licenses should be banned, period. I don't care. I know you want your cheap labor. I don't care. Too bad. And finally, checkpoints at way stations. All way stations, every interstate, every state road, checking these CDLs. We got to bring the radio crew back from commercial. Don't go anywhere. A lot of news to talk to tonight. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
The Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIBC.
Welcome back to the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated first on 93 WIBC. I hope you're ready to call up Jenny because it's going to be a rather busy year heading into the midterms. Everyone right now has a hot take on how everything is going to go, and that's going to change at least 6 times by June. So we're going to talk very briefly about some of the big news from the Trump administration today and an exclusive from our White House correspondent, Elizabeth Mitchell. We have other stuff to talk about regarding illegal immigrant activity from West Palm Beach, Florida. And then, of course, some kids vandalizing a Kroger as an ICE protest in Ohio. Some judicial decisions out of Virginia. First and foremost, though, the president of the United States in Georgia today announced an incredible $18 trillion of foreign investment into the state of Georgia. Why does this matter? Georgia has become, in a way, a new Texas and California in the commercial and industrial development sphere. So whereas Arizona, Indiana, and then to a degree, again, I have to be kind of careful, Kansas and Nebraska have become kind of new frontiers for some tech infrastructure in some facets. Georgia has become a huge new opportunity field for a lot of the entertainment and communications and service industry fields. There's a really interesting statistic on a lot of the emigration out of the state of Delaware as far as LLCs and corporate holdings are concerned into the state of Georgia. Delaware is known. That's like Biden's one big achievement. No, not mispronouncing things and sniffing girls. I mean, setting up Delaware as kind of a haven for business addresses and license holdings to be set up and kind of left alone. So the president of the United States touted 2 big things in Georgia. First of all, his preferred nation status thing to lower the cost of prescription drugs around the country. This is something that voters directly interact with because we were a very medicated society. We are an aging society in a lot of ways. And because of those things, Americans are very passionate about medical prices, which often, because we are importing a lot of those pharmaceuticals, they're getting kind of screwed on the back end for the prices for these. Here's President Trump talking about that today.
It's under our most favored nation agreements. And this is the thing that I think every Republican should win on, even if you hate them in every other way. Agreements for drug prices that we're slashing drug prices by 400, 500, even 600%. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. Because we were paying the highest drug prices in the world, and now we're paying whatever the lowest price is in the world. That's the price we're paying.
Again, that's a very good thing that he's moving toward. This is something that Oz has been particular on. This also appears to be something that Trump has tasked the Department of Commerce with as well. It seems to be doing a lot in kind of the micro purchases, at least for a lot of these pharmaceutical companies that are trying to cut costs in certain places so they can hire more pharmacists so that people can get access to services more readily. Also, individuals coming up saying that Trump, president of small businesses, kind of a rally point, but I think useful at least for the context.
Good afternoon, Rome, Georgia. My name is Kurt Cowan, and my family and I are proud to call this community home. I'm the owner of GMC Value Mart, a family-owned pharmacy and grocery combo my parents started back in 1971. If you've ever shopped at GMC, you know we're not a big chain supermarket. We have fresh meats cut in-house. We know our customers by name, and we work hard every day to keep prices fair for families. But running a small business isn't easy. Between fluctuating food costs, regulations, and pharmacy reimbursement rates that don't always reflect what we pay, it can feel like the deck is stacked against you.
So he then goes on to talk about how a lot of Trump's policies brought forward have lowered certain prices and, more importantly, cut certain regulations that allowed them to put bugs in the meat? No. That allowed them to no longer have to report to the czar of environmental exhaust on the shipping costs to get things to his grocery store. No longer has to wrap things in certain goofy materials that ratchet up the price on his consumers. Cutting regulations is the unsung success point of the Trump administration. Cutting 10 regulations for every one that's added. And the media does not care about this at all. They don't care about this at all. They're not covering it. And allow me to give you the proof, because Elizabeth Mitchell, we're going to talk to in a second, she's our White House correspondent. The Secretary of the Interior held an event in which they discussed all of these different regulations that are currently crippling small businesses, medium and intrastate businesses, corporations in the country, as well as general consumers. You've heard me gripe about them a lot. You know how much I've wanted a Toyota Hilux. And under the Biden and Obama climate rules, I wasn't allowed to have one. That kind of stuff. Things that Americans engage with every day that we used to be able to do. And then regulations said, actually, I'm from this university and I say you shouldn't be able to do anything but eat bugs and watch porn. Like, that's the stupid nonsense that comes out of these over fetishized studies that then become the evidence for regulatory process. Trump cutting those is huge. Our Elizabeth Mitchell was the only reporter who showed up to this regulation explanation event from the Secretary of the Interior, Doug Burgum, today. No one else was there. No one. Hugely important. That's what happened with Doug Burgum's Secretary of the Interior meeting today will affect you as an American, as a consumer, as a homeowner or renter, as one who participates in our transportation system, as one who engages with our communications and information systems, more than any other policy put forward by the administration, with the exception of maybe the Trump accounts. We go over to our White House correspondent, Elizabeth Mitchell, just finally back in her office in Washington, D.C. after traveling with the Secretary of War yesterday. Elizabeth, how's it going?
Great. How are you?
Fantastic. So we've got a couple of things I want to get your perspective on because you're covering these things closely. Of course, the infrastructure situation with Doug Burgum. We'll get to that. First, though, how was the particular Department of War excursion out to Missouri?
It was a lot of fun. We went out to St. Louis, where Boeing is making their main facility. Used to be in Arlington, and now the brunt of that facility is going to be in St. Louis. And the people there were really excited. They have 18,000 employees in St. Louis, and Secretary Hegseth addressed all of them and told them that he wants them to build more, build faster, and build more lethal. So that was his message yesterday.
I believe he was also asked about a potential upcoming Iran strike. You cited the Axios report. What was the response?
Mr. Secretary, Axios reported that a major war in the Middle East is coming soon and that there will be a joint U.S.-Israeli campaign larger than the one in Venezuela in Iran soon. Is that report correct?
Well, I would never reveal our capabilities or what we may or may not do. I think the world has seen for the last year plus what the president is willing to do, that when he speaks, they should listen, that when he says, Iran's not going to have a nuclear weapon and they should negotiate that, he means it. And of course, our job at the Department of War is to have the capabilities to back them up. So we would never reveal what we may or may not do. We have enormous capabilities, unlike anyone else in the world. And the authorities, I think the big difference between this department and others is that we unlock and unleash our warfighters to get the job done, should they have to. But our hope is that we never have to use that. The president's a negotiator looking for a deal. It would be wise for Iran to seek that deal.
So I had the opportunity to ask him a few questions about the brewing war in the Middle East yesterday. Before we got back on the plane to D.C., I asked him about the report in Axios and several other news outlets saying that a major war in the Middle East is sooner than the average American expects, and that it will be a joint Israel-U.S. operation, larger than the operation that we saw in Venezuela. He said, while he cannot confirm or deny the future plans of the Trump administration, his job as Secretary of War is to make sure that the Defense Department is ready for whatever the president determines needs to happen.
Excellent. Thanks for keeping us abreast on that situation. We know that you've got a lot of questions to ask, a lot of the administration members, and it's good to keep a bit of an eye on the situation in the Middle East. Here at home, though, you've written a new article over on the Daily Signal on the administration removing certain barriers to building infrastructure in the states, the Department of the Interior, I believe, agreements with Republican governors. Tell us a little bit about this situation developing.
Today, right before this hit, Tony, I got to go to the Department of Interior and watch two red state governors, that's the governors of Tennessee and Idaho, sign memorandums of understanding with the Permitting Council. This was overseen by Secretary Doug Burgum. These memorandums of understanding established that the permitting standards, that those barriers to building will be the same in the states as they are on the federal level. And this should speed up the production of some critical infrastructure. This includes things like airports, roads, waterways, data centers, AI facilities, broadband pipelines. There are a lot of things which will be easier to build now because of these MOUs. And the secretary told me that it's not just going to be these two states. They're hoping to have agreements with all 50 states, and they're even in conversations with blue states now, and those are moving forward as well.
So this Fast 41 process, as it's called, a lot of things that are listed in that package of fast track permit approval process stuff. One of those, however, is not like the other, at least in its reception. A lot of people obviously like seeing airports built, maybe expanded. They like hearing about waterways that are maintained, perhaps heavy level infrastructure, like, of course, certain sewer lines out on the East Coast. Data centers, though, that's a bit of a mixed bag with the American public. How was the reception to that being included here on this permit process?
Great question, Tony. This is an issue that a lot of our audience cares a lot about because a lot of Americans have been harmed by data centers being built close to where they live, driving up their utility prices, eating up all the electricity in the area, even causing water shortages, electricity shortages in some places. So I specifically asked Secretary Burgum about this after the signing. I got to do a brief interview with him and I asked him about this. And he said what he hopes to see is data centers doing something he likes to call BYOP, where they bring their own power grid so that actually benefits the area because other people will be able to benefit from that power grid. And then their electricity prices will actually lower instead of increase is what he said. So if that plan is successful with those data centers, making sure to use their own power grids, I think maybe consumers won't see some of those price increases that they're worried about, but it's certainly something to keep an eye on.
Well, if they're instituting, for example, small scale nuclear reactors, it's some of these larger data centers where they are incorporating their own smaller power plant infrastructure. That really does change the calculus, especially given governors like J.B. Pritzker in Illinois complaining about too many regulations in Illinois, number 3 in the country yesterday, trying to find the guy who did this style governance. It's good to see that the Secretary of the Interior seems to be pretty on the ball. And that brings me to my last question here. The questions that you were able to fire off at the Secretary of War, no pun intended, or the Secretary of the Interior, did they appear pretty up to the ball answering these, or did they kind of seem caught off guard by kind of immediacy of some of these issues with Americans?
I think both seemed very prepared to answer these questions. Something that I particularly wanted to home in on with Secretary Burgum was the affordability situation in America. A lot of people feel like prices are high, and there's a lot of concerns about how this will affect Republicans in midterms. I specifically asked him about this and how he thinks these MOUs will play into those concerns. And he was very ready to answer that he thinks it's just another way the Trump administration is attempting to bring down regulations and thus bring down prices for everyday Americans.
Kind of the Secretary Zeldin, the Secretary Rollins approach to answering those kinds of greater effect questions. Excellent. Elizabeth Mitchell, our White House correspondent, on the ball, never resting. Thanks for giving us a minute of your time.
Thanks so much.
All right, let's talk a little bit about some of the other major kind of business update situation. The Trump administration's got a lot of moving parts. There are a couple of different things rolling, especially on the immigration side. Tom Homan made a rather curious announcement today that it appears there are, despite some state legislation pushes, a couple of sheriffs in Minnesota that have now agreed directly with the Department of Homeland Security to work on notifying ICE on detainers, things that a lot of the state of Minnesota has effectively forbidden.
Cooperation, we even get more cooperation from state prisons on probation and parole, but the important thing with county jails. So what I met with AG Ellison about says, look, I understand the whole detainer issue, and there may be a state law about they can't under detainers, but there's nothing against them calling up ICE before they release this person. Don't hold them 1 minute past they normally hold them. Just call us before you release them. We'll be there to pick them up. And we have strategically placed agents across the state to respond. Well, the vast majority of sheriffs have. I thought over 80 sheriffs agree to that. There's still some discussions going on with some of the other sheriffs, but some are formal agreements. Some are, we'll call you before the release. Some want to accept the detainer. So we have different agreements.
We got to bring the radio crew back from commercial. Don't go anywhere. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
It's the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WYPC.
So the Trump administration right now focusing on reducing regulations. That's very, very heavy in the news. That's the domestic side of things right now. Again, the Tom Homan Department of Homeland Security. Again, he's not in charge of the Department of Homeland Security. Kristi Noem is still in charge. But Tom Homan seems to be the guy who is now setting the tone for how administrative operations are carried out. And what do you see? You see a lot better. Actually, we see right now the polls are starting to rise again on the opinion of the Department of Homeland Security, since we took away kind of the flailing side of the Noem leadership and we started putting, again, that calm airline pilot that we all hope to see kind of idea of an administrator. Now, on the other side, again, the flip side, because 2026 is going to be about who casts a vision. That's what Americans want. Americans are like, okay, look, we know the problems we got. We know the things that are annoying us. Where could we go? What are the opportunities? What are the plans here? And Republicans have a runway to do so. According to a private, very large meeting of Republicans yesterday evening, the plan appears to be focus on the messages that are going to win in your district. And then on the other side of things, really lean forward on pitching where we could be. On the other side, sorry, the rain's really coming down here on the studio at the moment. It's kind of distracting. We're hoping the power stays on. In the meantime, on the flip side, Democrats have launched into, well, it's not the affordability message or the healthcare message that they said they were going to run on. Juliana Stratton, who I believe is running for Dick Durbin's retirement seat, has released her very first campaign ad. And, boy, I don't know about you guys, but I'm convinced.
F Trump. Vote Juliana.
F Trump. Vote Juliana.
F Trump. Vote Juliana.
They said it, not me.
That is the first TV campaign ad that this lady has introduced. Again, before the primaries, in her campaign, people saying the F word and then Trump. So literally I say really bad words. I'm tough and strong and passionate. And then she gives her little, I'm really cool. They said it, not me. I'm, quirky and I'm kind of a mischievous little scamp.
I'm Juliana Stratton, and I'm proud to have lived my whole life on the south side of Chicago. I'm not scared of a wannabe dictator. I'm running for Senate to stand up to Donald Trump. I'll abolish ICE and
abolish ICE. Abolish immigration customs enforcement. Okay. That's something you said.
Hold Trump accountable for the crimes he's committed, just like they said.
Trump.
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 Oh, there's Tammy Duckworth saying it. Oh, she's so strong. You go, girl. Yeah, and then J.B. Pritzker, is he going to say it? No.
Vote Juliana.
That's why I approve this message.
Oh, yeah. Oh, wow. She's such a strong, powerful, independent woman. She's so great. I hope that they don't find a very bland, blasé, sort of coherent white guy to run against you, or Stephen Colbert will totally weigh in on the election, try to tip it in the white guy's favor, and toss her out to pasture. So, interesting stuff. Man, it is shaking the studio a little bit here. Well, if you see a witch on a bicycle going by here in a couple of minutes, I'll let you know when to start tapping the ruby shoes. Speaking of Jasmine Crockett, early voting has started in Texas, or as they call it on the Democrat side of the aisle, voting. So the vote early, vote often strategy is out, rising well. Jasmine Crockett's out there getting the celebrities, at least I think so. Here you go.
Right, you guys got to get out there and vote. You know what to do. That's right. We are starting voting on February 17th, and you heard it from the Jelly Roll. Let's get out and do it.
From the, is it Jelly Roll? I know, it's really coming down so loud. I don't know if she said Jelly Roll. Do you guys know who that is? Jelly, is that a person? Like a famous person? But anyway, she's racking up the big endorsements, I guess.
Boys, just go use it.
All right, good, excellent, exciting stuff. Speaking of James Tallarico, the guy that Stephen Colbert is going all in for, he's still pitching the really weird, just overt lie that the FCC blocked him from going on the air, not understanding at all what equal time rules are, as, you know, Stephen Colbert tries very, very hard to get fired. Oh, she's a singer, a music artist. Oh, I didn't know that. That's some interesting stuff there. Anywho, here's James Tallarico.
Your interview on CBS was going to be scrapped.
Well, we scheduled the interview with the Late Show weeks ago, and then a few days beforehand, they informed us that CBS wasn't going to allow it to air and that it would be on YouTube. And I was really proud of Stephen Colbert and of the Late Show for talking about that decision by CBS on the air and alerting Americans to this threat to our First Amendment, to our freedom of speech, because a threat to any of our First Amendment rights is a threat to all of our First Amendment rights. And there's a reason it's the First Amendment and not the Second or the Third or the Fourth or the Fifth, because it allows us to safeguard all our other rights, all our other freedoms. And so I'm really glad that so many Americans, Democrats and Republicans alike, are speaking out against this kind of government censorship.
By the way, I'm looking for the Republicans speaking out. So far, what I'm seeing is a lot of Democrats and Republicans calling him a liar. So that's exciting. I'm very well aware that the hail is beating down and can be heard over the microphone now. I'm also hearing from the comments that Jelly Roll is like a MAGA rapper, singer kind of a guy. Again, it's really hard to hear. Jasmine Crockett's social media team may want to speak clearly or not record in a hailstorm. But I'm pretty sure she says that this is also Jelly Roll. Multiple Jelly Rolls, a regular donut shop going on here.
All right, you guys got to get out there and vote. You know what to do. That's right. We are starting voting on February 17th, and you heard it from the Kelly Rowland.
Oh, Kelly Rowland. Oh, not Jelly Roll. Not Jelly Rowland. There were captions on that. They didn't actually, emphasize the captions. That's exciting. All right, good stuff. I don't know who Kelly Rowland is either. Who is this? She's an American singer and songwriter. She's one of the members of Destiny's Child. Oh, Destiny's Forgotten Child. There you go, guys. It's exciting. Meanwhile, Gavin Newsom announces it's very racist to ask someone for ID when they vote.
And of course, we're not talking about the other aspects of the SAVE Act that go well beyond ID, and it goes to which is also part of Jim Crow, the history, and that is when it comes to registration, you got to find your birth certificate. If you know where yours is, I have no clue where mine is, or you have to passport, and 2/3 African Americans don't even have passports.
Yes, as we all know, because half of Americans don't have something, that means they can't get it. Our country certainly isn't famous for a large amount of people not having something and then getting that thing. Oh, wait, that's what the United States is quite literally known for. So excellent, exciting stuff from Gavin Newsom. Thrills, incredible, great. I do very much enjoy whatever this nonsense is. Before we get over to the U.S. Olympics and things going right for a bit of a change, I do want to talk about some of the weird campaigning going on by those over on the left that involves the youths in a couple of different ways. Boy, the hail is just smacking the roof so loud, sounds like we're getting hit by rioters. Well, in the very bizarre Renee Good Memorial situation up in Minneapolis, an article by CBS News shows that there was a fire that broke out at the Renee Good Memorial in South Minneapolis. And there was some initial claim maybe that there was gasoline poured over on the memorial, and then it was lit on fire. I haven't seen any confirmation of this. That could be true. It's not confirmed yet. We're going to get into that here in a second. Radio crew, we got to send you on commercial. If you're in our Indianapolis market, guys, take cover. I'd recommend an umbrella made out of steel. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast. All right. So Democrats ran out, media ran out, said it's arson. Oh, Republicans, the mean, nasty MAGA ICE Department of Homeland Security goons, they've set fire to Renee Good's memorial. How could they do this? There's just one problem. There's really not evidence so far that arson actually took place. Now, if it did, that's bad, obviously. We'll talk about that in a second. But you guys do realize that when you pile up a bunch of paper and then leave unattended lit candles, that can ignite, turn into a little of the old warmth in an uncontrollable manner. Now, Angie Craig, Representative Angie Craig, Democrat, Minneapolis, she got out the pearls. So get them ready here. She said, last night, the memorial for Renee Good was set on fire and destroyed. Renee's family and the Minneapolis community deserved the chance to mourn her, which, as we all know, you can only mourn someone if you show up to the place they died and toss a bunch of paper on the ground. You know, that's in the rules. She said, this is unacceptable, and we must hold anyone involved with this hateful incident accountable. Now, I want to make something rather clear from the congresswoman in Minnesota. After 6 years of chanting, it's just property, and I'm sure they have insurance, and it's fiery but mostly peaceful, and rioting and arson are the language of the unheard, the voice of the people, that Minneapolis, Minnesota Democrats have finally decided arson is bad. So, great. Love it. Excellent. Congratulations. We knew you could do it. Took you a little while there, but hey, maybe the Quality Learning Center keeps that curriculum for later on in the year. You know, who am I to judge? So excellent stuff from the Minneapolis Democrats. Also, the students participating in these protests against ICE, just like we saw during the George Floyd Black Lives Matter protests, the students are, doing the same kind of things that student protesters always do. North College Hill in Ohio, students showed how much they were against the man and the feds by going after the worst federal agency of all, Kroger.
Chaos at the Kroger in North College Hill, all captured this afternoon on camera here. Thanks a lot for joining us at 11. I'm Mike Dardis.
And good evening to you. I'm Cherie Palello. Video from a shopper inside shows dozens of high school students tearing through the store and throwing things from the shelves. Tonight, we're hearing from police, school.
What a shocking surprise.
Leaders and the man who took that video. Our Daisy Kershaw, live for us in North College Hill tonight with it all. Hi, Daisy.
Hi, Cherie. Mike, police say that they were aware of a student-led protest against ICE earlier today. Officers even helped with traffic during that protest. But tonight, they're saying that what followed afterwards inside a nearby Kroger store was anything but peaceful.
Amazing. So what you're saying is the cops could have said, go back to school, and instead let them go vandalize a Kroger. Hey, great work, Ohio. We're going to bring the radio crew back from commercial one more time and then talk about a couple excellent victories. Don't go anywhere. Lots more. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal.
You're listening to the Tony Kinnett Cast on 93 WIPC.
A little bit of news from today before we dive into some of the Olympic-style situation here. The Tazewell County judge in Virginia has now sided with Republicans and the RNC over a bizarre new push from the Virginia state legislature to introduce a brand new redistricted map that would have left like one Republican seat in the state before the midterms this year. Again, already there was a rule that said you can't do that. And then the Virginia legislators decided, what if we make it like an Indiana CDL driver? What if we make it like an Indiana commercial driver's license? Make it temporary. Huh? Why don't we say, it's just for the next few months, temporary redistricting? And the judge in Tazewell said, that's not a thing. That's not actually how it works. You don't enact temporary maps. It's not like, it's a Tuesday, I'm in the 9th this afternoon. No, it's not a 90s Hallmark movie secretary schedule. it gets moved off and blocked and shunted around. I'm afraid not. That said, on to some Olympic-sized news. So, because networks are networks, and I truly hope that this particular series of rules dies a very fiery, very ugly death, NBC has preemptive special rights over the way that the clips from the Olympics are framed. Only they are allowed to show you clips from the Olympics, unless you get them from other country sources. So that's what we did. Any other clips from NBC are clearly marked as thus. And NBC wishing you guys very much flat tires on every one of your vehicles from the lovely nails scattered about on your local roads. So first and foremost, the U.S. women's hockey team did one of the most American things ever. That is, they beat Canada in one of the greatest golden goals I think we have seen in the Olympics. Beating Canada this afternoon. Incredible stuff. So congratulations to the U.S. women's team on the goal there. Here's what that last shot looked like.
The outlet pass for Keller, a defenseman. Nice move. Cuts to the net. Score!
Beautiful.
Keller, the overtime hero.
Now, just a quick there. Watch. You don't get to see the pass at the beginning because NBC hasn't released that clip. And I don't believe the other broadcasting network from Canada has released that pass either. I wouldn't. That's how bad it looks for the Canadians. But you can see her. She's going to pass between the Canucks' legs, right through the old Tim Hortons.
Defenseman.
Boom. And.
Nice move. Cuts to the net. Score!
Automatic.
The overtime hero. United States wins gold in Milan.
It's got everything that you need. It's got sad Canadians drooping the Canadian flag. It's got the angry old Canadian chugging maple syrup to block away the tears. It's got the Canadian lady, the Canady. I mean, they're a great, huge success, great job. But my personal favorite of this entire situation, the ladies of the U.S. women's hockey team then sang their national anthem together. This is correct. I love it. That's the appropriate kind of athlete that I like to see in the Olympics, for the record. Not to be overshadowed by Alyssa Liu. So Alyssa Liu, figure skater, phenomenal job. The Americans have really struggled in the figure skating category for at least a decade. I think closer to 2. It's been a rough time in figure skating for the U.S. Olympic team. Alyssa Liu has a phenomenal story. She grew up in China, and her father participated in the Tiananmen Square protests. Now, you know a story of another American-born athlete, I should say, at the Olympics. There's the freestyle skier Eileen Gu, who, despite living her entire life in America, went over to China, defected, gets paid millions of dollars to do it, and, of course, endorses the genocide against the Uyghur population. Because, you know, if you're going to go full communist, disgusting scum, then, you know, I guess you go all the way. But Alyssa Liu, first of all, incredible performance. Here she is after winning the gold. Thrilling stuff. Excellent. Love to see it. Here is a bit of her routine. Now, I bet you might be expecting me to tell you, wow, look at all of the form and the things that she's doing. I know nothing about figure skating, but I know that what she's doing is stellar. It impressed the judges. Incredible move, spinning, kind of going down to the knees, doing a spin on the ice, getting back up effortlessly. The flow, the rhythm is really smooth. Spins are clean and clear. Excellent. Again, I know nothing about figure skating, but I know that's pretty cool. I mean, I don't know where you find momentum like this, but clearly Clearly, she's got it. Now, here's where things get a little interesting. So China attempted to recruit her back in 2022. She refused. And then she needed enhanced security from the State Department at the 2022 Winter Olympics in Beijing because of it. Because she was terrified of being tortured and beaten by the state like her father. So those are two clear examples, clear cut. One is an immigrant from China who wanted nothing more than to escape the brutalist, socialist, and indeed the National Socialism associated with China itself, escaping it to the United States, and is extremely proud of her country. She is proud of being an American. Excellent things, obviously. I also tend to, I also gonna love her. I like her because she threw a phenomenal first pitch for the St. Louis Cardinals, which are my favorite team in the MLB.
Check out this awesome first pitch. Alyssa Liu, the 2025 world champion in figure skating. Oh, she throws it right to the glove of Leahy.
Okay, all right, let's not get carried away. It wasn't right to the glove. It was really, really high. Man had to jump for it. It's no George W. Bush after 9/11, that's not one of those particular moments, but it was a phenomenally athletic first pitch. So Alyssa Liu loves being an American, love it. And Eileen Gu, who everyone is salivating over for going and competing for a foreign communist country, enjoy the silver. Hope it turns you green. Radio crew, will catch you guys later. Stay dry out there. We're going to continue on the live stream for a while. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated, first on 93 WIBC. And now I can share the news that makes me cackle. Not excited. Not, oh, yippee, gee willikers joy. No. I can share the news that makes me cackle, like a petty junior hire finding out that her ex has gotten ugly. Allow me to share the news. Indiana committees are passing legislation as quickly as their hands can carry them to ensure that, the Chicago Bears, who no longer want to be in Illinois, where even J.B. Pritzker himself admits it's just regulatory hell to live through. It's terrible. It's awful. Good old Chicago Bears, they are now coming to Indiana. So I suppose that they're coming to Hammond, Indiana, as opposed to Gary, which, a little safer. It is a shame that we're not going to be able to call them the Gare Bears. I think that would have been pretty great. Brandon Johnson looks as though someone just spit on his ice cream cone being asked about this. And his answer has to be the most in denial stage of grief I've ever seen.
Is my face straight? Okay. All right, keep a straight face here. The Bears belong in the city of Chicago. The Chicago Bears belong in the city of Chicago, right? And I've said repeatedly that the door is always open.
Not always open.
For conversations, Kevin Warren did call me yesterday. We didn't get a chance to connect.
Oh, so you didn't make it a priority. Oh, my door's always open unless I'm not there. Then my second assistant space whale scrubber might get back to you on the third Bleeds Day of October. Yes.
And I still firmly believe that their best position is in Chicago, and it's evidence. The evidence is clearly speaking for itself.
Okay, so if there's evidence speaking for itself, then it would speak for itself, but it's not, because Chicago sucks. Chirac sucks. It's a violent place. It's an over-regulated hellscape that has been ruined. And I'm sorry, you crying and saying, I'm going to keep it straight, I'm not going to get upset about it. You let it happen. You demanded lots of money. You wouldn't change anything. And then when the business said, we're not going to do this anymore, and they left, I'm sorry, you're losing it, Skippy. A big womp womp to you. I will level with you. I'm enjoying seeing this no matter where we are, whether it's California, whether it's Colorado. Palantir announced up and out of nowhere they're moving to Florida because Colorado under Jared Polis sucks. It's an awful, marijuana-ridden, garbage liberal hellscape run by an incompetent administration that can't tie its own shoes without needing forms in triplicate. And so, if defense industries don't want to be any longer in Colorado and they want to move to Florida, again, as Indiana, a state with, I'd say, about a third of its entire manufacturing landscape is in the defense industry, something that good friend of the show, Senator Jim Banks, is particularly proud of. I got to level with you here. You guys do this to yourself. Mamdani, he's like, we're going to tax all of the corporations. And then they're like, okay, well, then we'll move to Dallas. And we'll pick up the stock market building and move out. And then he's like, but you can't do that. The money. Yeah, it turns out actions do, in fact, have consequences. So huge congratulations to the U.S. Women's Hockey Olympic team. I believe the men are doing excellently as well. I think they just clipped off Sweden. So good stuff there. We've got a lot of great things coming up, especially on the economic side. I don't know. I know that over the next couple of weeks, that as we move from the first quarter of the year into the second quarter, we start getting into tax season. We start getting into some of these policies played out. Voters are going to start to galvanize on some of these particular issues. And then we're going to start to get a pretty good idea. Yeah, we beat Sweden in overtime. Thank you, producer Daniel. Appreciate that. Right now, what we are seeing is a key opportunity for the United States to take off and for this economy to move forward as quickly as it can. And that's what the Republicans are counting on. That's what that deregulation stuff is for. Now, we got a couple of comments, a couple of questions. Tony, I don't think you can move Cheyenne Mountain. Touche. Very, very nice. Obviously, Cheyenne Mountain, famous military installation. One of the only underground earthquake-proof structures of that size on planet Earth. Really cool stuff. Alas, I do want to talk briefly, just briefly here, about some of the questions that we got in the comments, because I don't know. I really do care about how some of you out there are seeing some of these world events. So we'll go kind of in reverse order here. First of all, since we're talking about the Middle East, one of the comments from AMO said, what the hell is New Palestine? There's not an old Palestine. In Indiana, like a lot of towns in the Midwest and across the country, they have names for certain region that like become town names for us. A lot of them are pronounced incorrectly. Like we don't have Versailles, Indiana. We pronounce it Versailles, Indiana. I mean, heck, we've got French Lick. I don't even want to talk to you about what that's about. They're still upset over the interstate not getting brought close enough to them. Sorry, that's a really sore point with the city council. So yeah, as far as town names, yeah, New Palestine, otherwise known as the school that always cheats in their sports, at least as we knew them growing up. Yeah, they're a little bit south of us here. All right, on to some of the big questions regarding foreign policy, some of the other situations. First of all, from Design in Deb, Tony, what have you heard on many congressmen supporting regime change and then supporting this crown prince as the new incoming regime? Two things. First and foremost, congressmen and women are not in charge of the State Department. Congressmen and women are not in charge of foreign policy in the United States. They're not. They are not supposed to be, outside of ratifying treaties that are sent to them by the President of the United States. They are a check and balance on foreign power, but this goofy, like pseudo-libertarian idea that we need to get all of Congress together and they need to vote by committee to do anything regarding the military, that has never worked once in the entire history of humanity, and it's a very bad idea. Now, does that mean the president gets to be super dictator man? No, that's what the checks and balances power thing mean. I've seen a lot of upsetness today at, for example, Senator Lindsey Graham. So you have people like Rand Paul, you have people like Representative Ro Khanna, who's taken a minute from doxing FBI lineup, like innocent people out of his Epstein crusade. You actually have Ro Khanna coming forward and announcing that it's unconstitutional for the president of the United States to strike Iran. No. War powers resolution. That's a negatory. People are also very, very, very upset about Lindsey Graham. Lindsey Graham got out in front of the country and in an interview said this. I'm sorry, that's Ted Cruz. We'll get to him. Oh, wait. I guess we do have Lindsey Graham. Is he up first? Yeah, here we go. Lindsey Graham.
Representative Pahlavi. Because he's around quite a bit.
Yeah, I like him fine, but it's up to the Iranian people. Don't get ahead of yourself. The day after the regime falls will be complicated.
We don't do day after well in the U.S.
That's what you got to quit saying. We, it's not we, it's them. It's not my job to construct a new Iran. It's my job to give them the opportunity to construct a new Iran.
Now, there are a lot of people that are really mad at this. Like, oh, that neocon warmonger, how could he says he doesn't have a plan. Okay, show me where Lindsey Graham is like the war plan map maker, first and foremost. Like, why is this the dunk? Just to level, and again, I'm not saying I'm a huge like Lindsey Graham fan, just level based on the take. Also, number two, I thought the whole nation building thing was bad, right? Wasn't this the whole problem with Iraq and Afghanistan? If we would have just offed Saddam, then what would have happened? Oh no, another Middle Eastern civil war. Oh, shucks. I'm sorry. What's the issue here? We don't have a plan to send a bunch of boots on the ground into Iran and start a new regime. I'm sorry, were we supposed to? If they are throwing ballistic missiles at stuff and threatening our trade and continuing uranium enrichment, again, the Trump administration took out the nuclear capabilities at Fordo, but they still have plans and are continuing to rebuild infrastructure to create centrifuges, for example, to enrich uranium. Trump's like, don't do it. I'll shove a bomb somewhere, very uncomfortable, and then tweet an American flag. And I'm sorry. Look, I'm happy to go after Lindsey Graham for getting out there and saying weird stuff as much as the next Republican. I hear you. I do. But what he said there, that's fair. That is. Ted Cruz, kind of similar stuff here, commenting on the president's strategy.
Donald Trump gave the exact same offer to Maduro. You can leave, you can live a life of wealth and opulence away from power, and Maduro told Trump no. And on January 3rd of this year, we sent the Delta Force down there. We apprehended him. He's going to be prosecuted. Nicolas Maduro will die in prison. The Ayatollah and the mullahs have a choice. Do you want to be forcibly removed, or do you want to accept the opportunity to leave? I hope the Ayatollah has more sense than Noriega and Maduro had.
Now, they don't. They're out there running their mouth. They're going to FA and then they're going to FO. One of the other common critiques is, I can't believe we're doing this for Israel. We're doing it for Israel. So first of all, the United States needs no permission or friendship or buddies or pals or whatever to take out a foreign leader at any time. And if you think out there that we need some special super duper reason to exert our foreign influence on the state of the world, you need to start taking testosterone. You need to recognize the fact that America First policy does in fact mean doing whatever we believe is best for the world stage. We're the ones who rebuilt the entire world through the Marshall Plan after World War II. American imperialism is excellent. American excellence is a good thing. And this whining, sniveling, oh, Bibi Netanyahu, I mean, he can go ahead and strike Iran whenever he wants. He can strike whatever it is that he wants. But if the United States says, hey, don't touch my boats. Hey, don't sell oil to China. Hey, don't enrich uranium. Hey, quit doing X, Y, and Z because we like the people of Persia. Yeah, I'm sorry. That's a president's right to say that. It is. Yeah. I don't feel bad for Venezuela. Where's the Iraq I was promised in Venezuela? Where's the Iraq from last time? The Vietnam syndrome, where we make up all of these special rules where America has to get neutered and then has to go bow before the world and go, is it okay with international law if we do this? How about no? How about no? What we can't throw a missile through one of the worst people on planet Earth? Why not? I, for one, find it very cool at the thought of watching IRGC headquarters explode like little 4th of July little pop snaps you throw on the ground. So, you know, on that particular thing. Now, this from Captain Sasquatch. He's been very, very kind this evening, and despite me telling him not to, he's given 3 $5 super chats. So, my dude, quit giving us money. I'm not joking. Stop it. You don't have to do this. I'll answer your questions regardless. So first of all, Captain Sasquatch asked early on in the show, said, I really want to know when Congress is going to realize that they're not elected to vote what they want. They're there to vote for what we want. Okay. Yes and no. Yes and no. It's not a democracy. It's not. Your congressman is there to do what they ran on. This is like a really rough and terrible truth. I hate to say this as often as I have to say it. This is why primaries matter. This is why certain processes on recall and elections matter. Because once Congress is there, you elected them. They're there. Now, I can say you need to do this. This is in your best interest. This is in your people's best interest. But they ran as a republic officer. You elected them to represent you based on their belief of how to do it best. So if Thune's not performing, you know whose fault that is? The people who elected John Thune. If my congressperson, Jefferson Shreve from Indiana 6th, who has been a far better representative than when he was campaigning for mayor and then for running the 6th, it's the people in that district's job to vote in someone different. You say, but they're never gonna. That's how a republic works. It's a republic if you can keep it. Means that if you can stay engaged long enough to stave off the national emergency bonanza of the executive, which has killed every single dead republic on earth. Every one of them, every republic that has fallen due to an executive saying, the legislative branch doesn't work anymore. I declare national emergency. And then national emergencying their way to hell and gone. That is the number one way every single republic on this earth that has fallen. Here in this country, I agree with you. Should Congress be doing the will of the people? Yeah, absolutely. Wholeheartedly. But if you elect someone unwise who doesn't care about that, someone who gets there and then goes on TV and starts yelling a bunch of nonsense, and instead of voting for people, instead starts doxing people about something he only tweeted about 3 times during the entire Biden administration, then it's on the people in Kentucky to vote in somebody better than Massey. And again, I sympathize with you. I do. But that is what it was set up for. Second from Captain Sasquatch, Trump needs to give Iran what Ronald Reagan would call a proportionate response. I think he's gonna. It is wildly expensive to move that much material, to have that many people on certain alert. I mean, we're preparing also an exfil from Syria. There's a lot that's going on over there that is going to end in something. I just don't see any evidence that would suggest that Donald Trump is just suddenly going to go, oh, gotcha. Ollie, ollie, oxen free. The oxen are free. We were just joking. I don't think he's going to do it. I just don't. So that said, last one here from Captain Sasquatch. Well, when are we going to stop Congress members and Senate members going overseas as foreign dignitaries? Isn't that what ambassadors are for? Also governors. Another question along that line. Excuse me. Oh man, it was also about this foreign policy stuff. I can't find it. There was someone else who also asked about AOC and other representatives and senators going over to the Munich Security Conference. Here's my answer on that. No, members of Congress shouldn't be going over to security conferences. A senator has no authority, constitutional or precedent, to start a commission, to run an independent office and broker international affairs on behalf of the United States. Chris Van Hollen had no right to go down to El Salvador and demand to see Kilmar Abrego Garcia. There was no right of Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez or any Republican, Democrat, Libertarian, Green Party, Whig Party, your party, birthday party, going over to the security conference to broker international policy. Nope, not your job. We're in the legislative branch. Legislative branches do not handle the mainstay of foreign policy. They're not supposed to. That is not what they were set up to do. They're supposed to ratify and check foreign policy against the purse and the legal statutes governed from the American Constitution, the laws, and the precedent set forward. So that aside, no, they're not supposed to. What are they over there doing? They're trying to simp. They're trying to show everyone how wonderful and brave and virtuous they are. Dave, 3156, was the guy who mentioned Gavin Newsom and AOC going over to Munich. They're just there to try to show everyone how presidential they are. That's why they're there. Now, AOC fell on her face and then some. Gavin Newsom is just, gay and retarded. I don't know what to tell you. He's Gavin. So, again, administration officials. Now as to the matter of governors, to Captain Sasquatch's point, governors really aren't supposed to go over there either. Not a thing for governors. Again, you saw Gretchen Whitmer get up there and get asked about victory in Ukraine, And her answer was, ambassador? And the ambassador, who Trump appointed, looked at her and said, no, Toots, you came here yourself. Answer it. And then she couldn't. Governors have no business doing this either. Now, I'm going to say something unpopular to some of my friendly Hoosiers. It is one of the jobs of Diego Morales, the Secretary of State, to go to foreign countries and broker business deals with the state of Indiana. That's kind of one of the things he's supposed to do under the Indiana Constitution. The Secretary of State for a state, the state level, that's who goes on economic journeys and things to broker specific partnerships. Now, they don't have to do that. That's more of a, it's nice that the federal government doesn't have to spend all of this time and effort doing it. So the secretaries of state, I'm going to be honest with you, I think the Secretary of State for every state level, it's written this way in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, by the way, but at the state level secretaries of state should be almost equally under the authority of the State Department and the Office of the Governor. It's not in a lot of states, and it's become some kind of goofy nonsense position. But that's kind of the take there. That's who really should be in that that particular role. Excuse me. From the Commissar General, a very nice $5 super chat said, "Love the show. Falls right on my cigar hour." Oh well, my Charles Spurgeon. Hats off to you, good sir. So even better, I find myself tuning in every day. Even tuned in Monday, even though there was no show. Well, we appreciate that. Thank you very much for tuning in. I very, very, very rarely actually smoke. The only times that I do are when I'm out on like a conference. Michael Knowles loves hanging out and grabbing like some cigars at like a cigar parlor or restaurant. So that's usually the only time I have a cigar, unless I'm with Kyle Mattern from TP USA here in Indiana. I do prefer, and what I have in a wooden box on the set right there, is my grandfather's brand of pipe tobacco, Burgum Riff. And that smell is so nostalgic for me that sometimes I'll take a little of that and I'll sprinkle it in a little porcelain bowl that I have here in the studio, and I'll light it just so that my office smells like either a Southern lawyer or the way my grandpa's garage used to, who I'm named for. So, you know, I appreciate that little cigar conversation. I'm not like my Indianapolis namesake, Tony Katz, who, again, is more of the cigar style of the cigar style of things. Tony, as a Baptist, are you allowed to smoke? Oh, that's quite a kerfluffle in our communities. I don't do it very much, but alas, make a lot of smoking jokes. So. How big is Big Gretch? Thank you, Fish. That's a great comment. I don't know. How big is Big Gretch? That sounds like a lead up to a joke. Give me your punchlines for how big Big Gretch is, I guess, in the comments. I love our comment section. I do. Those of you who do tune into the Tony Kinnett cast while we're live and chat with the live stream, I love seeing the comments. We have a little something that keeps a record of the comments so I can go read those later in case I missed anything, because I do. And then also those who comment below the video afterward. I do go read those. And if you see reply from the Daily Signal, there should be a little monogram initials down below that tells you who's replying to you. Most often it's me. I guess as a teacher, I always just enjoyed the students asking certain questions thing. Tony, do you believe that Doug Burgum is actually going to restrict data centers? I don't think he has the authority to do so from the federal government's role. States have a lot of say in how certain operations take resources. In Indiana, I believe that's a collaboration with, believe it or not, the DNR, the Department of Natural Resources, regarding the water usage. And then on the power side of things, that's probably with a local cooperative. Now here, something that I really don't care for, Indiana Republicans have given a sales tax vacation to data centers for, like, they don't have to pay a sales tax on their electricity. I find that really scummy because I have to pay sales tax. Like the studio. The studio is a business operation. It has separate power, and I have to pay sales tax on it. Why is what the data center doing more important than you tuning in to look at my gorgeous bearded face on weeknights at 7? So I don't think it's all said and done. As one of the people who does talk about kind of the caution on how data centers are implemented a little bit more than most, they are eating up all the water thing is not always as true as is being alleged. the idea that it's all evaporating and being carried somewhere else, there aren't a lot of studies that show that. There are some reports, a few that have been debunked. And obviously, there can be irresponsible use of the water. But the idea that they're heating up the water and they're like nuking the crops around them, I don't see a ton of that yet. On the other side, yeah, maybe the EPA through Lee Zeldin should open up some of the forbidden chemicals and things again and allow us to use refrigerants, the good kind. And also let ladies have their hairspray back, the really good kind of hairspray. That's stupid environmental crap. I mean, I'm getting my Toyota Hilux. You should be able to use whatever kind of refrigerants you want. And also, I say bring back asbestos while we're at it. I'm joking on that last one. Crew, we're going to send you guys out with a very fond farewell this evening. Thank you very much. If you enjoy the show, do us a favor, consider throwing us a like and a subscribe over on Apple Podcasts. If you search Tony Kinnett Cast, Apple Podcasts, you'll find us there. Leave us a review over there. That helps us out on the show side of things. But more important than anything, join us tomorrow, Friday, and we'll round out the week with a really good time. It's the Tony Kinnett Cast here on the Daily Signal, nationally syndicated and first on 93 WIBC. Take care.
I'm Matt Davis, CEO here at Maranatha Baptist University, and I'd like to invite you personally to Maranatha's 4th annual Leader to Leader Conference on March 5th and 6th here in Watertown, Wisconsin. This event, sponsored by our School of Business, offers 2 days of practical insights, valuable connections, and leadership development that will impact your career no matter your field. This year's conference includes keynotes from Ken Barbick, a Maranatha graduate and former Senate-confirmed Assistant Secretary of Agriculture, and currently serving as a senior lobbyist and advisor to Fortune 500 companies. My friend Tony Kinnett, another Maranatha grad who now serves as a national correspondent and syndicated radio host for the Daily Signal. And Adam Morgan, president of Majesty Music and a former member of South Carolina's legislature. Becoming a more intentional, effective leader starts here. Take the next step in your leadership journey and join us March 5th and 6th for 2 days of learning, networking, and growth that will set the tone for the rest of your year. To learn more, visit mbu.edu/leader to leader. Can't wait to see you here on Maranatha's beautiful campus March 5th and 6th for the 4th annual Leader to Leader Conference.